You have to know this. The fact that I'm here matters. The fact that you're there matters. This is no accident. None of us are.
If you do not have style, you just say, well, here I am, as a human being. How can I express myself?
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
There is no way around. You have to jump.
And we are calling it iPhone.
نريدها قومة ونهضة إسلامية.
I have a dream.
It's about yes we can.
تتفاخر الشعوب بأبطالها الذين يتسببون بعلو أعلامهم في المحافل الإقليمية والدولية، وكلما زادت أهمية ذاك المحفل زاد العلم علوا وزاد ذاك البطل فخرا وسموا. فما بالكم بمن اعتلى سطح القمر ليضع علم بلاده؟ باز ألدرن وصديقه أرمسترونغ هم أول من فرض سلطته على سطح القمر، فأخذ باز ألدرن ذاك العلم وغرسه ليسجل التاريخ عام 1969 قبل 50 عام من اليوم.
S4B seconds and counting. S4B president.
The Saturn V rocket.
Waving in the breeze. Yes, sir. How about right there?
Buzz Aldrin.
Thank you again, Dr. Aldrin, for this opportunity. Do you allow me to call you Buzz?
Please do.
Thank you. So, Buzz, as you allowed me to call you,
of course.
I've been with different influencers around the world. I met presidents that won Nobel Peace Prize. They all were dreamers, and they all had an equation which is the sky is the limit. But here I am with a person that says the sky isn't the limit because there is a footprint on the moon. I know that it's enough proof for yourself that human can go to the moon because you've been there. But still, let me ask this as a first question. But still, some people don't believe that that happened.
Yeah.
According to New York Times, 6% out of Americans, they believe that it never happened. Millions of people around the world still sometimes
Did they go to school?
Yes, they say that they went to school. What do you think the best evidence to, or the best reply for those people?
Me.
You.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. I learned to tell the truth.
And do you
That's
think...
where I went to school, to learn duty, honor, country, to tell the truth.
You've been saying the truth and serving your country since you were 17 years old. I've been in your social media account and I've read that yesterday. Yes. And but still, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask it again because some people say the flag on the moon is moving, other stuff. What is the best evidence after 50 years from that trip? What do you think is the best reply to those people?
It sounds a little technical, but when we came back, we told our managers what we did. And there was a lunar reconnaissance orbiter that went over and took pictures. And you can see in the pictures evidence of Mr. Armstrong walking back to the crater and then coming back again. You can see the different experiments there that were just as we told them. We put them and we took pictures of them.
You're right.
And we brought the back. But then a satellite goes over and takes more pictures and comes back. What more evidence do you want? You want to send a Chinese or a Russian there to come back and say, yeah, we were there?
I understand that. But some of them build that on certain documentaries.
Sure.
For example, the flag issue. If we can close this subject with that. Why is the flag moving while there is no atmosphere on the moon?
It's not moving. The bar that held it up had to go up like this and stay in the position. But it was frozen. It was not pull outward. So since it wouldn't pull out, we had to fluff it a little bit to make it look like it was in the wind.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a great job.
For sure.
Just listen to these people say that it was in the wind.
You're right.
They're the evidence.
You're right.
We did that.
You're right, sir.
How can you keep a secret among all those people? We know you can't keep secrets.
Especially after 50 years. Maybe you can hold a secret for a year or two.
Yeah, there's always somebody who was. Yeah.
You're right, sir. But what do you feel after doing this big, huge achievement and knowing that still people doubting such a thing? Do you feel something?
Well, there was one example where somebody didn't think, and he was accusing us of being a liar. And I socked him, okay? That was one of the best pictures that was taken. I got more applause from my other astronauts.
Yes, I saw that video when he brings the Bible to you and ask you to swear on that Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people maybe think that a way of...
You know, even if it was the Quran,
yes.
we would not done that either.
Why don't you swear on the Bible that you walked on the moon? Why don't you swear on the Bible that you walked on the moon?
I'm not trying to get in the middle of anything.
Tell him to get out of here.
This is a hotel.
We'll call the police.
We pay.
Come on in here, we'll call the police.
Solicit
You like that?
Why don't you swear on the Bible that you walked on the moon?
It doesn't, sir, I don't have nothing to do with this, but
Okay.
you cannot solicit on this property.
We just paid
Right now-
to rent out the penthouse to shoot up there. You're the one who said you walked on the moon when you didn't. Calling the kettle black, if I ever thought of it. Saying I misrepresented myself.
Away from me.
You're a coward and a liar and a thief.
Going back to the same subject, we thought of people will always doubt things, such as going to the moon and all those achievements. I visited the NASA or the Kennedy space station 2 hours ago, and I saw how much it's important for people visiting there every day. And I just had a thought. Is it possible to be the same station where people go to there and to travel to Mars maybe in the future? You always insist on new goals. Why is that?
Well, the space station has been up there quite a while. And the Russians put up a space station before, and we put up a Skylab. And so we've investigated it. But that space station has been up there almost 20 years, about 18 years. And it's getting old.
You're right.
Yeah. And it costs money to keep it there. So we need something else to begin to entice other people who want to put new experiments. So we need to have laboratories at, this is a high inclination, 51 degrees.
Yes.
And our inclination is 30 degrees out of Florida. Now, the reason we went up there is so that the Russians could reach the space station.
Nice.
Yeah.
But what I'm
Now,
really
the
looking for,
Chinese could
before going into Chinese and Russian, your passion of explaining that takes me back to the first question that I said, which
Sure.
is that why do you insist on having people going to Mars? Or why is that passion still there?
Well,
in you, talking about you.
When we came back from the moon, for the next 5 or so years,
Yes.
I wanted to find something maybe that was different. Instead of going to the moon and not coming back as a free, every time we went to the moon, it was on a trajectory that could come back to Earth, but we never had to use that. Now, but if we did, what would happen? Well, the Earth would be there. So I started thinking, well, maybe it could go back out there, but the moon ain't gonna be there. See, it moves around.
Yes.
I knew that. So it goes back out the second time, but the moon, it's gonna be over here. But now the third time it goes out, we time it, so the moon is gonna be there and we go around. I thought that was very smart. You're using an orbit at the moon that goes around it, uses the gravity of the moon. Why don't you look at the gravity of Mars and see if we can go to Mars and do that the same way? I thought, oh, that's very difficult. But then I started experimenting on the head with numbers and approximations. And I thought, yeah, this is possible. So that was the beginning of my interest in Mars. But people had been interested in Mars for 100 years. They look up there and the men are from Mars. Women are from Venus. Okay, someone would read to you, the cow jumped over the moon. It's one of those cute little stories.
Yes.
If a cow can jump over the moon, why can't we do that? Well, it took about 60 years to figure out that it was a little bit more difficult, and probably cows would have a hard time doing that. But we have advanced so much. When I was 2 years old, I had my first airplane ride with my father in a company airplane of an oil company he works for. And it was painted red and white to look like an eagle. So my first airplane ride looked like an eagle.
Wow.
An eagle is the symbol of our country.
Yeah, of course.
An eagle is a name that we chose for our spacecraft.
For Apollo 11, when you reached there, yes?
Not an accident. It was very important for us to do that.
حرص ضيفي باز ألدرن دائما على حث الناس على التفتح للأفكار الجديدة وتوسيع المدارك، فهو من قال أن العقل أشبه ما يكون بالباراشوت، حيث لا يعمل إلا عندما يكون مفتوحا. I read this book, and you have multiple amazing books, but in this book
9, 10, something like that.
You have amazing books, as I said, and one of those chapters you talked about how we should keep our minds open, and you even said that the mind is like a parachute. There is no use of parachute if it's closed, unless it's open. What can you say more?
I didn't invent that, I heard that from someone else.
Yeah.
But when you hear something that's clever, you remember it.
Of course, but
because
who should say parachute
but the
before?
Mind is not.
You're right.
What did you exactly? To see the world around you, you have to look, and then you have to absorb what is that I'm seeing, and you have to, it goes through your head. Now, when you're young, you don't know all that. You just see something and that you remember it. What a marvelous thing it is for life to come from the oceans and to learn to multiply and to learn how to survive and then to learn to do things automatically by instinct. And then pretty soon we remember what we did, and now we can predict or think about the future. Now this is intelligent being, and we have evolved here on this planet to be quite intelligent. But there are a lot of species way behind us. There probably may be some ahead of us.
Maybe.
There's so many billions of stars. But you know, somebody has to be number one.
قدم باز ألدرن كثير من الإنجازات للبشرية، وقد يكون أهمها رسالة الدكتوراه التي قدمها في جامعة MIT والتي مكنت البشر من الوصول للقمر. بجانب ذاك الجانب العلمي من الرسالة شدني الجانب الإنساني الحالم منها، فبنهاية تلك الرسالة كتب قبل سنوات حتى من استيعاب فكرة الوصول للقمر قال: كم أتمنى أن أكون جزءا من تلك المهمة التي تأخذ بالبشر للقمر. You had a wish when you published your research in MIT, and you said in one of those pages here in the book that you wish to be part of the trip to the moon. We're going back to the moon. Is that was really a dream that you had? When was the first time you dreamed to be part of a trip to the moon?
Well, I had that first airplane ride.
Yes.
And I really wasn't sure what airplanes were, but I knew something flew. You know, 2 years old is not very... but then as I grew up older, you know, I'm pretty old. Now, you know,
you seem young.
The airships, there was a very famous airship that when it came back from Europe, it caught fire and exploded. I was 7 years old when that happened. That's a long time ago.
Yeah, 82 years ago.
Yeah, and I was only 11 years old when we were attacked at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, and it began the World War II for us. And experiencing that through my life, I think led me into a desire of service, because I had such great admiration for the soldiers who were called to duty. Way back in the early times, and in other conflicts. But I felt that there was such a patriotism exhibited recently by World War I and World War II especially, and our nation and all of the people here, especially youngsters as I was, just felt so proud to be an American and to inherit this patriotism, and that admiration has followed me ever since I took that oath to serve my country. And you know, you don't get too wealthy when you do that, but you manage to combine the two a little bit and try and get along.
Maybe the wealthiest person in the world would dream to be in the moon. Let me go to that and go back to the most important thing that happened in the last decades. Do you remember the moment when you landed? Of course, you felt the wow effect. How long was that? How long was the wow effect when we were on the moon? The feeling that it's wow, it's.
Well, it took 11 minutes for us to land when the engine was lit. But in 1961, that's 58 years ago or so.
You're right.
In order to technically achieve a capability where the President Kennedy at that time felt perhaps we were maybe falling behind.
You're right.
He felt that we needed an objective, okay? Not just in space, but the moon.
You're right.
And we needed a time, 10 years before then. Now, I've done a certain amount of research in history, and we did not have the best plan at that time. And we did have to make some modifications on that plan. And that was the marvelous history of the Apollo program, the engineering, the judgment of people to see how things are developing and be aware enough to know when things need to change.
This happened 50 years ago. I want to take you exactly 50 years ago, not 58, not 59.
Mm-hmm.
We are talking about 50 years ago, the moment you had your step on the moon. Do you remember what took the most out of your thinking during those few minutes on the moon? What did you think about the most while you are on the moon, beside, of course, your mission?
Well, I trained as a pilot, and you are always thinking of what you are doing now. Is it going to get you in trouble, or is it following what the plan was? And the plan can go wrong, and you have to respond to that. You have to be ready to handle unusual situations all the time. In order to do that, you see something new. It's not quite the way we trained for it, so you pay attention pretty much to what is happening. What's happening back on Earth? Oh, it's way up there. I'm not thinking about that. They may be thinking about me, but that doesn't mean I have to think about them. My job is right here.
On the moon.
On the moon. And I'm working together as a team. And it turned out that we were doing different tasks. But I was not appointed the leader as much as for the outside activities.
Yes.
I would do some of taking pictures of the different damages that might have happened, taking pictures of the crater, the engine, and it wasn't much at all. So it was doing what we had planned to do. And we were aware that we had so much time to be able to do things.
But Buzz, nothing is perfect. Of course, you know that.
Yeah.
What you've missed on the moon, if you've done it better, an action, a memory that you didn't make, something that missed, that you regret, that didn't happen while you were on the moon.
Yeah, there were certain artifacts or certain things that different people wanted us to leave on the moon.
Such as?
For their purposes. And one of these was a message from, I think it was 72 leaders around the world that were given a short statement.
Sentences.
And those were all engraved on a small disc. That was in my pocket. And I was thinking about what comes next. And I jumped around in front of the TV camera to demonstrate the mobility, how easy it was to
move on the road.
And if you change direction, the backpack is heavy and it wants to keep going when you turn. And that's very noticeable. And different ways of moving around. And I was thinking about that. So when someone back in Houston said, it's time to get back into the lander. So I got ready and was going up the stairs, and Neil said, Buzz, did you forget something?
Oh.
Yeah. I forget what he said, but yeah, I remembered it in my pocket. So I was going up the stairs, and I took this pouch that had a few different things in it, and I very ceremoniously tossed it on the moon. Now I have to tell you that because somebody's going to go up there, and they're going to see these things. The point was to take them there and to leave them there, so that people on Earth knew that that action was fulfilled. Just like we went to the moon to land and then to come back again.
After coming back, this is a book I saw before you came.
Yeah.
For your tour around the world. After you did the achievement, is it the same all over the world?
It's called Giant Step.
Yes.
And that is an adaptation of Neil's words, a small step.
Yes.
A giant leap. So we considered that when we came back, people read the newspapers. They could see on television. But we felt, the president felt, that it would be a good gesture to the world if we would travel around the world. So this is the record of doing that. And I believe, I could be wrong in remembering, but I think it was 25 countries in 45 days. Not 45 countries in 25 days, that would have been, but I remember those two numbers. And, you know, I don't think of everything myself. When I hear someone else suggest something to me, a good friend of mine who flew around the world in an aircraft, and I joined him for the beginnings, and then they came back, and then I joined them for the second half. He said, Buzz, why don't you think about doing a trip after the 50th anniversary? Now I call the 50th anniversary the 5 decades of Apollo observations. We will remember, we will observe the occasion. So I thought the best word was not remembrance. No, that sounds like a way in the past, but observation
You're right.
today of what the 5 decades of Apollo, not just landing, but the missions that led up to that.
You're right.
And then we landed, and the missions that came after that, they're all observances of the 5 decades of Apollo.
Now, whoever's watching now, right now,
Yeah.
and hearing you speaking, for sure believes that you're the best example for an innovator. In this book, you ask people in your book to hold the hands of other innovators and look them in the eyes and support them.
Yeah.
When did you do that for the last time? When was it the last time you had your hands on someone's shoulder and supporting him to do something innovative?
No, I read something usually. There are a lot of very many ideas that are not very good. And when people follow ideas that are not so good, they're very costly, and you go in the wrong direction. So innovation may not be true innovation. It may take judgments on that. Where does that come from? Education. I think we need to ask some universities what do they think, and then bring those ideas together with an organization that has been advising, creating new ways of doing things. Innovation. We had a company that did that in Apollo, that could look at what NASA was trying to do, and they would help NASA make some choices. And that was very good. And we need that sort of company today. It doesn't really exist.
What about SpaceX?
Well, that's a corporation with a clever dreamer, a clever person who knows things that are needed, and he thinks, and now he gets a number of people around him to help think of new ways of doing things.
Do you think SpaceX will take people to Mars?
By themselves? No.
Who do they need?
I have heard even former NASA administrators say, space exploration, we should turn it over to the billionaires. Is that why we are on Earth, to see who makes the most money by what he's doing, and then let him be the smart person? That doesn't represent the people and what we do. Notice I said we.
Yes.
What we as earthlings, as humanity does, should not be determined by one person, or maybe even one country. Maybe we need a combination of countries. Instead of, let me see how I can do it, another country says, let me see how I can do it. So we'll have a race that's very expensive for this country and for that country. And as I think back, going to the moon, people may call it a race because it took the technologies of what the Russians had.
It was a space race.
And
Everyone
we were
knows
able
that.
to see that.
Yes.
And I believe our President Kennedy said, we may be a little behind. We need to find something that we can do. And when he thought about that, it was maybe after Sputnik went up, and it was clear that the Russians could do something that we didn't yet know how to do. So President Kennedy said, I think we're behind. What can we do to catch up? Look and see what someone else has done and copy them? No, let's find an objective, something that is possible, that nobody has done before, that would be so impressive to the world, to us, to future people. And let's get it done. In 100 years? No, he's not going to be around. In 50 years? No, let's be reasonable. And he came up with an estimate of 10 years or a decade. And that is a measure of the ability to start out with something and see if you can achieve that in that objective and that time period. Do we care that these people, Russians, might be, well, they're going to listen and they're going to hear the president say, I believe this nation should achieve before the end of the decade of having a man on the moon and bringing him back safely. Now, the Russians heard that. So they're not going to just sit back and let the Americans do that step by step. So now we have a race. But I maintain that we did not intend to spend a lot of money and expect the Soviet Union to spend a lot of money trying to do something. We knew that we needed to achieve a significant improvement.
And
so we set an objective.
You're right.
And a time.
And the plan, as you said.
No, we didn't have the best plan. No, we had a plan of sending a very big rocket with everything on the spacecraft that would get to the moon, enter the moon, make a landing, lift off, leave the moon and come back. That's very ambitious. We needed a bigger rocket than we had. So we had to use 2 rockets, 2 Saturn V rockets. And then we had to join up. But there was another plan, and that is
I want to stop you here if you don't mind.
Yeah,
because this takes
getting
me
ahead.
to the point where the importance of your PhD comes, where it's not only 1 rocket. You needed 2. So is that what helped you to be part of who've been chosen to be on the moon? Was it that your certificate from MIT, your PhD research that you've done that helped you to be part of the crew? What helped you the most? Was it that PhD?
Curiosity. How can you do something that hasn't been done and other people are looking? Because the way that has been suggested may be very difficult.
Sorry, Buzz. Everyone is curious to be in the moon. What made you different? Was it that research? What made you the chosen one? You and Armstrong. Why you? What do you think?
Well, a decision that was made was not mine. It was made before I became an astronaut. It was to use 1 rocket or to send 2 spacecraft to the moon. And 1 would land and the other would go around the moon. The one that lands would come back up and join the one that is there, and then come back. And to do that it had to leave the moon and rendezvous with the spacecraft that would bring it home. And so it was called Lunar Orbit Rendezvous.
Nothing stops Buzz Aldrin. It's clear. Even age, when you were 86, you also went to the South Pole and be handling the record of the oldest person to go there.
87, I think.
87.
Yeah.
87. Why do you feel it's important, even in that age, risking all that and going for a certain trip?
It's a series of curiosity. When I was very young, let's say maybe 6 or 7 years old, I saw some people at a lake who had a box with windows on it. And they could take this box that was open on the bottom and was closed, and they could put it down so that you could get down in the water, and it was down below the surface, and you could get up inside and look out. And I thought, wow, this is fascinating. So I began to learn that, yeah, you could look down with a mask.
Snorkeling.
And a snorkel.
Yes, snorkeling.
And then, of course, Jacques Cousteau came along. And he came up with
the scuba
ways
diving.
of diving.
Yes.
And I was fascinated with the movies and the stories. So I was...
So the first time for you to do the scuba diving is 1958.
No, it was 57.
57.
And, yeah. It was before I became an astronaut. So I had been diving, and then we formed an organization later in 1970, because that was after, after the space business.
Do you consider going to the moon the best achievement that you ever done yourself? Do you think that it's the best thing that you've done ever?
No.
What else?
I wrote a science fiction story in 1995 with another individual. He was a very good writer. And we wrote a story about the past, long time ago. But these people at the closest constellation to us, Alpha Centauri, were far ahead, or they became further ahead than we are today. 8,000-9,000 years ago. And the story that came out of that, when they came to Earth, and then they died out. But when they came, man was quite primitive in tribes, and they interacted, and there's a fantastic story. Now in 1995, here, we did not know about any planets except in our solar system. We, for sure there must be, but we had not ever seen specifically one. So the writer and I needed to invent a system. So in 1995, we wrote this story. But we had to invent something that when we did find out, it really wasn't there. Something was much smaller was there, and it didn't make the story as genuine. And when I do something and write a story or a book, it has to be as absolutely accurate or technically correct projecting into the future, maybe, and projecting into the past, as I can possibly reasonably guess or project.
من أمام محطة جي اف كينيدي للفضاء يأتيها الزوار يوميا ليتباحثوا تاريخا طويل امتد لما يزيد عن 50 عام من المحاولات وصول البشر للفضاء وما بعد الفضاء. وفعلا هذه المحاولات تحولت إلى نجاح، أحدها الوصول للقمر. فهل تتحول هذه المحطة في المستقبل القريب أو البعيد محطة هجرة البشر من كوكب الأرض إلى كوكب آخر كمارس؟ We couldn't miss celebrating your 89th birthday, which you celebrated 3 days ago. So if you allow us, Jason, if you can bring the cake. This is a cake that shows 89 wonderful years.
Yeah.
Do you
I was going to tell you to come back 1 year later.
Do you have a wish before you blow the candles? Your personal wish.
You're not going to ask me what it is.
Please, no, I would.
You will?
Yeah, can you share us your wish? Because it shows that whatever you wish tends to be true. So tell us, what do you wish for?
I got to blow him out first.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll tell you.
Oh, happy birthday, Buzz Aldrin.
Thank you very much.
Happy birthday. What did you wish for?
That this 9 is going to go over here, and then there's going to be a 0 there. Okay?
Sure.
And before that happens,
yes,
I believe that we will begin to assemble a gathering of capable organizations. And I believe that NASA, with the knowledge of others, could begin to form this. With NASA, the European Space Agency, Russian Space Agency, Japanese, Chinese, and Spacex, Elon Musk, and Blue Origin of Jeff Bezos. All of those can contribute in different ways to carrying out the challenges that we have today in space exploration. My primary interest is in human space exploration relies on what do we know about where we're going. And that bases on science, on knowledge of things that are historic or new things that we discover. And we need robots maybe to go way out and to learn more. And based on that, we can then plan to do what humans may be able to do. And this is going to hopefully involve contributions from all of these space agencies. And if they, maybe you're not interested right now, we want to demonstrate by the organization and a plan of what the joining members, and I think that we will find cooperation with Europe, with Russia, Japan, but maybe not China, and SpaceX and Blue Origin. But we want to have such an attractive plan that not just governments will do these, but experimenters who want to get an education, a technical achievement will be able to do these in laboratories and with robots that go somewhere, sometimes bringing back something. Governments can just not do all of this, and certainly not one government.
Or one person, as you just said.
Well, one person has to have a lot, and especially if he doesn't quite have that much, and he does something for the government, and the government pays him. That's a very good thing to do, and that indicates a very smart person.
Let's not talk about that smart person. Let's
sure.
talk about what happened today. What are your comments on what happened today morning?
To the moon.
No, today. What happened today morning? You wanted to
in Texas.
Yes, in Texas. Yes.
I know what has been planned for the programs of the future. And everyone has had an interest in what can you and these other people do. Can they get into space? Well, that started maybe 15 years ago with the space shuttle, with the Russians.
Yes.
And not that much is being done, but I think there's a plan now for Saudi Arabia to have a space program.
Yes.
I have a good friend of mine, Salman.
Mohammed bin Salman, the and the king is the son.
A good friend of mine, of course. And I know UAE, United Arab Emirates.
Yes.
They have selected someone who may go up in a short while. So these opportunities to take not professional pilots or space people is a great inspiration for the rest of the world to know that space is not just for
people like Buzz Aldrin.
But people like me, yeah. And one day, it may become more and more available. So, when someone goes up to space, I don't like the word tourist, okay? A tourist gets on a cruise ship and goes around somewhere.
Yes.
Where a tourist maybe gets on an airplane, goes and has some fun somewhere, and then he comes back. But an individual purchasing a sizable amount of cost to be able to, it's hardly appropriate to call that person a tourist. It just is too degrading.
What should we call them?
Traveler. Trip? Well, yeah, we hope he comes back. But he's a traveler. He's not going from here to there, but he's going from here to space. He's going to come back where he's supposed to come back. So he travels. But is he looking out? Maybe. But mostly, he's looking down at the Earth. So he's a world view traveler.
Buzz Aldrin,
yes.
We've reached the end. But let me tell you this before I leave. Whoever witnessed this episode, the moment where you shared us your wish in your 89th birthday, for sure will know the definition of innovation. I believe I had luckily meet many innovative people with achievements, people with dreams, but I never felt this because I'm here with Buzz Aldrin. So because of that, because of giving us the chance to be part of this episode here in your home, let me give you this, which is the gift that we give all to our power owners. And before giving you this, let me tell you, we faced a problem into defining the type of power that you represent. But for sure, you're the power of innovation. Thank you for your time, Buzz Aldrin. And this is for you.
The power is the wind. And the wind moves it.
You're right.
And the wind is because the sun and the water. And we learned how to do that. Very, very smart people.
For sure. Thank you again for your time. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. اليوم كنت مع سلطة الأحلام باز ألدرن، الرجل الحالم منذ نعومة أظفاره إلى يومنا هذا. فقبل سنوات بسيطة وطأت قدمه كأكبر رجل يصل للقطب الجنوبي، وما زال يحلم في عامه 89 أن يصل لكوكب مارس. كيف لا نصدق أحلامه وهو القائل The sky is not the limit because there is footprints on the moon. هكذا يجب أن نحلم، هكذا هي فلسفة باز ألدرن.